Bada bing, bada boom. Excellent. Excellent. We're live, are we? Right. Yeah. Let's just. Yeah. I think we're back live. And let's just check. Yeah. Sorry. Hello, everyone. We just had a teeny tiny technical difficulty just then. But we're back. I think. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. We're back live. I think. Two sec. We are 100% back live. So that's cool. Okay, guys, we're really sorry about this, guys. We just had we don't know what happened. Just like randomly, the back end software just kicked Breeze out for no reason. So I have no idea. No idea. They were like, "Bye bye, Breeze." Probably because she was banging on about Monster Hunter Rise too much. They were like, "Yeah, we just."
Joe was like, we are going to talk about Starfield and nothing else.
We do have that coming up. You're right, Gladrius. Okay. But no, we're not gonna overdo it on Starfield. Not so soon, not yet. But Breeze, do you have any closing remarks with regard? Have you been playing anything else? You mentioned Fortnite this morning. You sucked. Yeah. Does probably make sense because the game sucks.
Never. Yeah, the game is awesome. Especially all the characters that they put in there. I just appreciate it. It's really fun to play. So
yeah.
But yeah, this Monster Hunter World Rise has got me. And there's a few other games that we're gonna get into later on, so I won't mention them. That's coming up. So Monster Hunter Rise is gonna get put on the back burner because other great things are coming out. So I'm just ready to have fun. Spring. Let's go.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a strong first quarter for game releases. Lots have been coming out. I haven't really played any of the new games. I'm ashamed to say. I've been playing the Telltale Walking Dead game. Like today, I was going through that. I've been playing Project Zomboid with my buddy as well. That's a lot of fun multiplayer. It's like an isometric sort of top-down action survival game with zombies in the vein of like DayZ, yeah, or like Rust or something like that, and those that sort of type of shit. And it's hella addictive. It's a lot of fun. It's super easy to die, and I'm really enjoying playing it. If you haven't already, you should check it out. It's actually currently on sale on Steam, so if you want to go and check it out, I think it's like £10. Or maybe like $12 or something like that. I don't know how the pricing moves around or changes depending on if it scales according to the differences in forex. Anyway, let's move on to our topics because that was kind of a cringe moment for me just then. We're gonna Gladrius. This is something that you spoke about yesterday with regards to EA, and they've been canceling some games again, haven't they?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know why, but apparently they canceled Apex Legends Mobile, which is no longer be operating after a few more weeks. They also canceled another Apex game of some kind, and there was a single-player Titanfall game that was in the works. That got canceled as well, and that's the big one that's bumming a lot of people out because they've been wanting a Titanfall follow-up for years now, and still nada. So, yeah. I mean, we could talk about, we were kind of getting into this subject about how all these projects are being canceled because there's a problem with budgets and there's a bunch of layoffs going on right now. So
yeah, sure.
I mean, this is part of it. And we were talking the other day, is like you didn't think Titanfall sequel was kind of a big deal, but I know a lot of people who are mad that Titanfall 2 wasn't successful because it came out a week after Battlefield 1. So yeah, I mean, I would like to see the series continue at some point. Maybe it will, but having that kind of canceled on us just adds
That's so stupid of EA as well, because it's both their own games. Battlefield is and Titanfall, both EA games. So that's really poor planning from them on that point of view. If that really was the reason.
Yeah.
That's what we're fighting.
What do you think
for.
about this, Breeze?
I'll be honest, I haven't played Apex, so I'm not really sad that there's not an Apex happening or that mobile was canceled.
Right. Well, yeah.
And so it doesn't affect me. As far as Titanfall is concerned, I do know that there has been, like, in the Titanfall community, they have been waiting and to not get what they need out of Titanfall, or for them to even deliver. It's unfortunate. I heard great things about it. I didn't play it. Once again, it just wasn't my particular game that I liked. So I'm not really hurt that that's closing down either. Yeah. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, it's all.
I mean, it's your own choice. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, to each their own. Like, I mean, while this is like maybe gutting to find out for people, like, from my point of view, these types of things happen all the time. This is just one of those occasions that we've actually found out about it. Like, there's so many games get cancelled all the time, or like for
we were kind of getting into that, because apparently the Coalition, they canceled a couple of games as well so they could keep working on Gears 6, and now we're also Infinite won't continue its story content because of, like, these cutbacks at 343. Like, even Kiki Wolfkill isn't there anymore. So they're trying to move on to, like, whatever the next direction Halo is. And we got into a discussion about that before the podcast, did that. So I think the whole thing is, like, we were talking about, like, what direction could Halo go now? And...
Yeah, but Gladrius, I just want to bring it back quickly. Because regarding Gears 6, so you said that the Coalition have dropped that side project that they were going to be working on to work on Gears 6.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't know what.
Oh, really? Where was that from?
What? It was in the news. You didn't read about that? Hang on, I'll pull.
I heard. I saw something on Twitter.
Yeah,
about,
there were two other projects that they were working on, but those got kind of canned, so that they could tell Microsoft, well, we're working on Gear 6. So, I mean,
really?
Yeah, take a look right there. Gears.
So this is coming from Video Games Chronicle. Wow. So,
well, I mean, some other sites covered it too. That's just off the top of my head.
I'm just talking about the one you've sent me.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it makes sense. Gears is their bread and butter. I don't know if they were what they were working on other than that.
So it's coming from during his Game Mess morning show on Thursday. Giant Bomb reporter Jeff Grubb claimed Xbox's Canadian studio was now full steam ahead on Gears 6. The Coalition said in May 2021 that it was preparing to transition to next-gen development using Unreal Engine 5, and shortly after, the LinkedIn profile of one of the studio's level design. Grubb claimed the Coalition was at one point working on 2 now cancelled projects, in addition to carrying out support on Halo Infinite and working with Epic on the Matrix Awakens Unreal Engine 5 tech demo. They've cancelled that smaller project as well as another project. So there have been 2 games cancelled there, he said. That's a quote. It's quoting again, this was all reflected in the layoffs that happened at Microsoft, which did hit the Coalition a little bit. The studio is now going to move on fully to Gears 6. I say now, it has likely moved on to Gears 6 in full over the course of the last year, but definitely that will be their next game. Wow. Okay, that's
a bit of a news in itself.
The man himself.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
I'm actually that's a little bit. I mean, we didn't really talk about the layoffs, but I actually think that's we'll go back to the Halo conversation now, because I think in yesterday's show when we were talking about it, one of the things I was kind of getting to was the franchise fatigue of Halo, and I kind of think the Gears, they should, if they wanted to make another IP and work on different games, I think they should let them do it, so they can sort of breed new ideas for how to evolve the franchises and stuff like that. What do you guys think about that?
Well,
do you think that could?
I mean, when we were discussing the ideas, the problem is like Halo does have an expansive universe, but it's not as expansive as, say, Star Wars. You can't make a Halo fighting game and expect it to be on the same level as the Halo first-person shooters. You know, there's got to be some sort of ideas behind that. Although I would play a Twisted Metal style game with Warthogs. Like, I'd play the heck out of that. But I mean, the fact of the matter is, they're probably just going to stick with shooter front. I mean, they'll try to change up the story they did, like with ODST, which you were talking about being one of your favorites, and they probably do something with long lines of Reach, maybe. But something tells me they're going to stick with the shooter format because that's what works.
Like, you know, look, the thing is, but the Star Wars, it's a multimedia format. Like, there's books, there's all these different things which built out and fleshed out the lore and stuff. Halo doesn't have that apart from a terrible TV series which wasn't even true to the lore. So, I mean, yeah. It can't be expected to grow, but you know there's no reason why they can't just take set a different game, different characters, completely no one we've ever met, and just stick it in the Halo universe, and using a different IP. Yeah, you probably would use guns because that's like what I mean. They don't have the lightsaber, for example, doesn't exist in the Halo universe, does it? So
there's the plasma blade.
It would be a shooter. Oh, you mean the energy sword?
Sword. Yeah, that was that big cool weapon.
And I guess there's the gravity hammer as well. But they run out of like juice really quickly and stuff, and you know, there's a little bit of like Zelda, Breath of the Wild type weapon degradation, isn't that? Yeah. Like in Halo.
Breeze, what do you think about this?
I think that as far as Gears being number one, it's an exclusive, so it's been with Xbox or Microsoft since the beginning. And I when Coalition did Gears, well, of course, Gears 3 was awesome, and Gears 5, you know, of course, we went through Gears Judgment, which it wasn't the Coalition that did that. I forgot who was it. Bungie? Was it 3? No. Forgive me.
No. I don't think it was Bungie though.
No, it wasn't Bungie. When it was done so. But once the Coalition had left, it took a turn for the worse, in my opinion. So for them to come back and say, hey, they're canceling titles to go for Gears 6, and it's the Coalition, I'm going to play that game. I was a Gears head. I was Horde Queen, loved Horde. Was mad when they took it away in Judgment, or did that poor display of it. But when Coalition came back and took over for Gears 5 or Ultimate and brought it back, it was like, oh snap! Now I'm loving it again. I think that continuing Gears with Gears 6, it will be fine because they can create new storylines from the characters that's already there. I mean, taking Marcus's character and dragging it for as long as they did, and then with all the twists and turns of his story, it was really well put together. When they tried to do it with what's his name? Gosh, with Judgment, the story was good, but just the gameplay itself just wasn't good. So I think that they have good storylines to maintain Gears. I just would like to see new weapons and
I understand.
I wouldn't know what else I would like to see new as of now, but you know, if they bring
fleshing out of that open world, if they fleshed out that open world felt like there's nothing living in it. It felt like desolate and empty. But it was a good idea. It was like, you know, it was encouraging of the franchise, but ultimately I think it could have been done better.
I liked it more than Gears 4. Gears 4 kind of took
same here. I did as well. I'm saying it wasn't. I'm saying it wasn't perfectly executed. It could have been done better, but it was a good idea to, you know, that it could certainly be built upon well.
Yeah, and I think if they bring a better outlook towards it with 6, and I think they can create something super special again.
So to bring it back, you guys, you're not worried about these games getting cancelled then in favor of Gears 6, specifically looking at the Coalition?
We didn't even know what they were. I mean, that's the thing. Why encourage, you know, the building of new IP in the case, like, you know, if something's got to work, then obviously, you know, you got to make sure that it works.
apply that logic to this EA thing as well with those games. I mean, we didn't
the
know they
thing
existed,
is,
so why are you getting upset?
There's a bit of a difference with the EA thing. With the EA thing, they're leaning more toward Apex Legends because it's a popular multiplayer game, but they're also closing the door on exploring what could have happened with Titanfall. Like Titanfall 2 is a really well-received cult favorite, and the reason, again, it didn't sell well is because they released it a damn week after Battlefield 1.
But they cancelled single-player games. They cancelled single-player
games. Well, no, they're getting back into
Apex that. And Titanfall.
Well, yeah, I know. That's what I mean. I think if they can go back and explore Titanfall with a full-fledged single-player multiplayer experience, I think it would work fine. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think
it would be great. Mad. It would be great, but I think it would also be great to see knowing how talented the Coalition are. I think it would be great to see them like try their hand at something else that isn't just Gears. I mean, like, don't get me wrong, like it's I'd love another Gears, but also I'd love to see what else they can do. I'm just saying, like, games that we don't know that they existed and we're just finding out that they're cancelled, afterwards. What does it matter? Because like it's not like they announced the game like, oh, it's coming. Everyone got hyped for it and stuff. Now it's like we're just finding out afterwards. Like, oh, okay, well that would have been cool, I suppose. But oh well.
Yeah,
I don't know. Sometimes you can't tell. Sometimes in this market you can't tell. Like Crystal Dynamics did the Tomb Raider games, and a lot of people wonder what would have happened if they didn't work on Marvel's Avengers and went back to Tomb Raider. You're always going to have those questions of what if. I mean, I liked Avengers, but I wasn't crazy about it.
I thought it was received better than the Shadow of the Tomb Raider, which was the most recent one, I think.
Mm-hmm. I think it's just a matter of like people got turned off because of the microtransactions. They said they wouldn't load the game with them, and then they did. So
okay, yeah.
That's a Square Enix decision, though. That's not Crystal Dynamics. But I mean, yeah, the bottom line is like, sometimes you don't know with a new IP, but at the end of the day, you still have to do business to keep the game machine flowing. It's just how it is.
100%.
And also too, it's like they're gonna use Unreal Engine 5. So are they using 5 for Gears 5? I don't think so.
Yeah, they will. I mean, they weren't using it for Gears 5. No.
So I noticed that developers are now, since they're going to Unreal 5, their aim they already had versus Star Instance. Arc 2 was in Unreal Engine 5. So, but they're keeping a lot of the bases from Unreal Engine 4 and transferring it over, and they're redoing the game. But they just had an update for the original Arc for Unreal Engine 5, and they're adding new patching it over. So it's like you're going to be able to play it again, just the original game in Unreal Engine 5. So, it's like, since this is a new software, even though we had Unreal Engine 4, but to them it's really new, and it's harnessing this new gen technology. So it's like giving their games a breath of fresh air. Now we can play it till its fullest capability. We can get those frames per second. We can get up there. So I wonder if everybody's just like, hey, let's just start over, because Unreal Engine 5 is now the technology moving forward in the games that we're developing, or everyone is developing, and they can build further off of that. So, I don't see a problem with Coalition getting rid of their games, or scrapping new games just to continue on with doing Unreal Engine 5 and then opening up a whole new game in Unreal Engine 5.
Actually, it's funny you say that, Breeze, because they it's just come back to me now. They were doing that game, that unannounced game, supposedly to get them used to Unreal Engine 5, so because they were like known for being masters of the Unreal Engine, weren't they? Like, that's why they did that whole Matrix game. And maybe they were like, okay, yeah, well, we've got a handle on it now, and Microsoft were like, well, okay, would you mind just going straight to Gear? Might have been like, yeah, okay, because thinking about it, they weren't doing it to
just to test out
it was
do.
Exactly, kind of like the Matrix demo. Okay. The thing is, the EA though, and Titanfall and Apex use the DICE engine, their own in-house engine. So with those games, getting those games getting cancelled is kind of the gear with Gears. It's not really the same. I don't think the same rules apply for the Coalition studio. I think the Coalition with EA, well, yeah, we can always say, well, are they fucking it up again because they've got a bit of a dodgy track record? Sorry, excuse my language, everyone. Sorry. You can also make the same argument of 343 because the studio has just been mismanaged and is just something's gone wrong. There's a disaster, and with Halo, this whole 10-year plan they were supposedly having. So. While the article makes, some from Bloomberg, by the way, makes some good points about the E games and getting cancelled, and obviously relating in a similar note to 343 and the drama over there. The issue with Gears and those games getting cancelled is I don't think it's the same issue as such. Do you guys agree with that?
I think the thing is when you try to throw all your eggs in one basket, as it were, and you don't live up to the hype, you don't have all the components in place, you don't have the story elements in place, it could throw a lot of things off. Sometimes I'd like to think that the best way to approach a big franchise is let two studios try it. And if you need a good idea of how well this works, take a look at Forza, right? You have Turn 10 Studios who are doing amazing work with their sim games, and Forza Motorsport this year's release looks really good, and I'm excited about it. But on the other hand, then you have, Playground Games, and they're doing great with Forza Horizon. It's practically one of the most entertaining racing series out there. If you had developers that were doing more with the Halo universe, like one telling this kind of story or one telling this kind of story, and they somehow intertwine or at the very least entertain a big multiplayer audience, then you'd have something, I think. I think, having 343 solely in charge of Halo and then trying to do so much with Halo Infinite and coming up short, there's no secondary team to really step in there and try their hand at the franchise. I mean, I don't know if Microsoft can afford it with such a big franchise as Halo, but they should try the approach in which you have different developers trying different ideas. I mean, Microsoft has a ton of teams in-house, and you have any idea what would happen if the Activision Blizzard merger went through and they had somebody like Sledgehammer take a swing at Halo or something like that? It'd be interesting to say the least, especially after what happened with 343. At least that's just off the top of my head. I think by invigorating fresh ideas into a franchise, but at the same token, keeping the core elements intact. That's why I'm saying don't do this Halo fighting game because it wouldn't make sense. Master Chief would win every time. It's silly. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents.
But what? Okay, Breeze, do you have anything to add on that? With regards to maybe
am I making a point or am I just yammering?
No, I mean I get the point. I just know that EA has been having for a bad streak with closing studios, changing their mind all of a sudden, just out the blue, and falling with Battlefield, even though it was marketed so well, it just didn't do well, and people were disappointed. So, like I said, but like Elijah said about the letting companies take over some that don't deliver, and it causes problems as far as E3 is concerned. I really don't. If E3, I'm not surprised E3 cancels. I'm sorry. E3,
well, actually, we're gonna get
E3
into 3 in a minute
because we're just gonna talk about that next. Excuse me, everyone. EA just has such a everything. So if they decide to cut a game, I'm not surprised. I'm not, they cut their studios and laid off a lot of people. So I'm not really, surprised by anything they kind of do anymore. Now, if they cut off the Sims, then we might have a problem. Then I'll be up in arms. But
yeah, I'll just say this: EA does not know management that well. I mean, on the one hand, they'll go and say multiplayer is a future, and they'll close Visceral Games, and they'll take out that project. But on the other, then they're going to close down Knockout City because it doesn't have enough players, and they're going to push all forward for Star Wars Jedi Survivor. I mean, seriously.
And
I mean, these guys are going to get their own type, and they're pushing Dead Space. So I'm like, okay, what's this logic about that? So I think they just need to get the idea in their heads that maybe they're not right about everything, and they just, they're bringing back Skate, which is fine, but they're bringing it back as free to play. That's no. They need to
Microtransactions, customizations to
Yeah.
your board and everything. That's where
I gotta
it'll be.
pay to do a kickflip. No, I don't think so. Anyway, we've been going on to this one for a lot. I've been going on this one a lot, but I'm just gonna say EA could use a little more work. They're starting to go in the right direction with certain things, and then they trip. They continue going in the right direction. Because Dead Space looks amazing, so we'll see. But it's funny you mention E3 because that is our next subject. We're talking about how, of course, Sony dropped out a while ago. Microsoft kind of does its own thing next door at the Microsoft Theater. Now Nintendo is out. Apparently, a report from IGN indicates that Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony are all out for the returning E3 this June. That'll be under the new team at ReedPop. And that kind of puts a damper on the show because that means no major first-party publishers will be there for the first time in the show's history for the most part. Because Nintendo was there when Microsoft and Sony didn't do their thing, but now Nintendo's out. So now it's all third parties or, food stands or energy drinks.
Is this confirmed?
Fine. But I think that's okay.
Why do you think that's okay?
Well, because there's a lot of third parties that can now get a lot of recognition and put their games out there, especially indie developers. Like if the big titles fall out, I see that as opportunity for everyone else. Because, okay, during the pandemic, we've seen this transition that all the major companies are going to do their own showcases. That's fine. E3, bailed out and closed down, and now they're back. But they can branch into so many different opportunities with this. Now they can focus on content creators. Now they can focus on indie developers, small game developers that are it could be major exposure for the rest,
I don't
think it's a bad thing. I think that it's also a money maker for the big corporations. Like, hey, if you want us to show our game at your event, you have to pay us. I think it's
but here's the thing. I mean, it's a tactic to get third-party publishers involved, sure, but there's a bigger problem at play here. The first one is that E3 isn't really the same show anymore.
True.
When it was made, it was made as an industry show for media people to check out, for companies to get together and talk and everything like that. Then a few years ago, the ESA wanted more money. So they made it a public show. So now it's technically like a giant pack show now. It's no longer an industry show, and it kind of, takes away from the intrigue. I mean, back in the day when a game was announced, the press announced it to the people got excited. Right. There was this leak. Right. But now with that kind of being taken out of the equation, with these companies not attending and just third parties getting all the pressure, they're up against a challenge because the public can see these games now. I mean, kind of the part of the aura was people saying, well, here, just have this on the floor. Take a look. Now they go, well, we'll just go to the floor.
That's true.
It kind of takes away some of the magic.
They don't have them on the floor. Like the ones that they're showing trailers for, the ones that are literally coming
some
up,
they have some
soon,
demonstration.
They'll have demos for and stuff. Yeah, of course.
So anyway, there's a second
also,
thing.
The press is it I'm not sure about. Sorry, is that these companies will be there. Microsoft and Nintendo first might be there, but they're just not having a press conference at.
Well,
E3.
no, they'll
have
be
their
there.
own one.
They'll have their own press events. They'll be doing like what EA Play's doing. They're doing their own thing off site. Now, Microsoft will be close, next door, the Microsoft Theater. But, I mean, they did that. I mean, the last time we had an E3 show, Microsoft was not on the E3 floor, except for Mixer.
The last two or three.
Except Mixer, their YouTube thing that didn't work out, the Mixer network. That was on the show floor.
They were at the Microsoft Theater. Literally across the street or something.
Yeah, literally. I mean, that's the thing. A lot of these companies now, that brings up the second thing is that the ESA is charging out the nose for floor space. Like those big Sony Microsoft booths that they've had for several years, $1 million for the whole show to have that much space on the show floor. I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, you for $1 million, you could rent out a theater and you could have your own showcase, and you'd still have room for parking, and you'd still have room to treat everybody to hot dogs. That's the thing. I think the ESA. I mean, even for smaller business rooms, they charge $10,000, which is nuts. People can't. I think a lot of people are realizing that it's a lot cheaper to do like online showcases or their own thing off the show floor than paying the ESA out the nose and watching these people just roam their booths and try to steal all the swag and just get in the way of everything. I mean, that's the thing. The E3 may be a successful tactic for certain third parties, but I just don't think the ESA was thinking things through when it came to convenience, when it came to taking care of the people attending the show. I mean, they even shut down Kensha Hall. Years, Kensha Hall was this amazing showcase place for indie companies because they didn't charge that much at all and everything. Then they shut down Kensha Hall. I mean, what was the point of having,
Well, I think it's the rise of the digital that has made E3 more obsolete now, because they can effectively not have to pay the money and get even more eyes than what's allowed on, what will be on E3 and stuff like that. With it, and you can just digitally allow people to play demos in their own home now and stuff like that, rather than them having the demo at E3. So I get it. I get the price there. The issue with them not being there, yes, indies may have. This is going back to Breeze's point. Yes, indies may have more of a spotlight there at E3, but are they going to be able to afford that if it's that much money, the floor space and whatnot? Are they, are these getting indie bids? Are they not indies not maybe going to suffer from not having all those eyes on them at, let's say, a Microsoft or a Sony or a Nintendo like press conference and whatnot? Are they not just going to go through them anyway and say, because indie games that are maybe launching into Game Pass might be in any Microsoft show and whatnot. Right. But really, do you not think that the indies maybe they'll have more of the spotlight, but how are they going to afford it if it's that expensive?
I don't think I think that's why.
Could it not be potentially detrimental by not having the big three first-party publishers there?
I mean, without the three publishers there, I know a lot of media wanted it, because the media got turned off too. Like the ESA leaked all this information about people that went to the event, barely apologized for it, and said, well, we'll get a new security team in place. And then we didn't hear about the new security team. So you've got a lot of media people that are already turned off by the show. But then you take out like the major companies that people talk about at the show that aren't going to be in attendance. So it's a gigantic, you can have all the third-party companies in the world, but people are like, what are Nintendo up to? I don't know. I guess we'll have to watch Nintendo Direct. And
actually, it's funny you should mention it. What's been the last few years for Jeff Keighley's summer, what's it called? Summer Games Showcase.
Summer Games.
This will be it. That'll be it. Some Game Fest. Yeah, that will probably be what takes over. E3 is technically just video games really that go there, but it's just mostly because that's the biggest electronic entertainment, or it's the biggest media industry, isn't it, really, at the moment?
Well, bottom line is the show's not really going to be the same. That's the thing. I mean, it's becoming more of a PAX event, and even then, the indie publishers aren't going to come, so it's going to be a showcase, again, for third-party publishers. They were talking about doing interactive experiences, which completely goes against the mantra of what the industry show was about, and it's not going to be the same. And I have a feeling
isn't it?
It's pretty much dead.
Look, honestly though, I wish the thing is, like, it's sad because what I loved about E3 is that we got all of them in the week. We got all of these showcases, like we got Nintendo, we got Microsoft, we got Sony, all within not even just a week. It was like a couple of days. It was like 2 or 3 days of each
and
other.
Like Ubisoft took part, Activision, EA, that PC gaming show that it was always on. That was fun. There was all these showcases. We got excited about it and everything.
In one day, and it's like all games could come together and like.
And we'll still get those. But they'll be digital only now.
Yeah, and they'll be spread out. They'll be spread out. It won't be all in the same week. It won't be. It's kind of. I've heard it like described like Christmas.
Breeze, go ahead.
Is it over like 3 weeks? You have the digital week, then you have the business week, and you have the gaming week. So.
Well, that's what they were trying to do with this new showcase. They were trying to do like 2 shows for the industry and then 2 shows days for the industry, 2 days for the public. But even then, like I said, without these major companies there, without that hype building there, I mean, unless they do when they do their own events, what does E3 even serve now? That's what I'm wondering about. I mean, the third parties could do their own thing. You really think Capcom's going to spend $1 million to do a Street Fighter 6 tournament in a convention center where they could easily rent out one of those esports arenas and do it there for half the price? I mean, E3 is just not. It's not.
It's dead. It's dead. And it's dead. And speaking of things that are dead,
we know what we
service
need to bring.
games.
No, here. We're gonna do Breeze 3, and it's just gonna be Breeze talking for 3 days. Breeze 3. Oh, yeah, I'll do it.
3 days straight.
It'll be me talking to a houseplant. So, what do you think about the new Mario game?
Brilliant. Oh, dude, I've got a houseplant recently.
But no, we should talk about. We were talking about this a little earlier. We're talking about games that are shutting down because these live service games, as they call them, aren't as popular as Rocket League and Fortnite. 3 games that we know are shutting down. We talked about Knockout City, which was EA's dodgeball game. Sorry about volleyball. Then you have Rumbleverse.
What have you been doing, Gladius? Down the beach?
Yeah, I'm on the beach. I'm having Mai Tais. Shut up. And then there's Rumbleverse, which was the multiplayer wrestling game that I really enjoyed from Iron Galaxy. And then there was Crossfire X. That was the one that Microsoft was hyping up a lot. They even got like Remedy to do a single player campaign, but it's dead. Like nobody's playing it. It's just dead. So all these
games
launched
and it was a piece of shit when it launched.
I mean, hey, quit cursing on your own show. But no, they're all shutting down this summer. Crossfire, obviously, due to lack of popularity, but I'm wondering why Knockout City and Rumbleverse are closing, because those were actually pretty fun games.
Games. Oh, I love Knockout City.
And I like Rumbleverse. It's perfect. I'm a wrestler. I mean, I like Rumbleverse. So,
I'm really disappointed. I haven't played it in 3 months. I visited 3 months ago, and I still had a blast, like going back. You know, in the Gamerholics group, we used to have game nights with this, and it was a lot of fun. So I'm sad that they're shutting it down. I hope that they give some life to it, at least bring it back, or someone comes along and says, hey, you know, this deserves more of a chance. So I hope we get that. I'm sad. It's going away.
Yeah, I know. And like I said, there's no reason given. I mean, I understand, like, some people are moving on with things. Like, Back for Blood, that will no longer have post-launch support. And, you know, it's still got a lot that people can play through. So that I understand. But these live action, why do I keep calling them live action? Live service games. They were supposed to keep the content flowing and everything. They're supposed to have new events and all that. But I don't know. I think they just can't afford the servers, or they want to move them over to more popular games. I honestly have no idea. But they're really appealing games, and I think they deserve a greater chance than these studios are giving them.
Right. I agree with that.
Yeah. Maybe it's just easier. I think that's what it is. It's maybe easier for some people to develop single-player games instead of these big multiplayer service games. And remember, like I said, but not everybody can afford this future. So,
well, I mean, they would, Crossfire X launched into Game Pass. Like, let's be fair. The problem is that there's only a certain number of people to play games and play different service games. Do you know what I mean? Like, that they can't. It's kind of like the subscription market, like the subscription services for like Netflix and Amazon and Hulu, and there's going to be a loser with it because people just there's only a certain number of hours in a week that you can invest into playing different live service